In the spirit of the Summer Olympics, this episode of Watch This Then That, we're diving into The Boys in the Boat. No spoilers, I'm just going to give you the who, what, when, and where so that you can be the expert while you watch the film. I'll leave it up to you to tell me why this movie was a bomb or a bust down in the comments below. Let's get into it. So the story of The Boys in the Boat is the story of the Washington University crew team's journey to the 1936 Olympics. However, the story specifically follows Joe Rance, and given that there was a book that preceded the movie, the director had ample evidence to clue him in to an accurate story, and that's exactly what you get with the story of Joe Rance. The win. Sorry y'all, we're going a little out of order here today. But what's extremely significant to know is that the story takes place in the midst of the Great Depression. And most of the characters in the movie were, like most people at that time, a victim of the Great Depression, specifically Joe Rance. Washington State experienced in their urban areas Hoovervilles, named after President Herbert Hoover, who was accused of not doing enough at the beginning of the Great Depression to quell its negative effects. Meanwhile, due to the lack of employment and therefore the lack of income, farmers in rural areas also struggled to sell crops, in addition to the fact that they had experienced a drought recently. By 1933, the state of Washington's unemployment rate was 25%. And one other important note regarding the timeline of events, the 1936 Olympics takes place well before World War II begins in 1939. However, the Nazi Party had already taken control of the German government by 1936. And speaking of Germany, the 1936 Olympics took place in Berlin, Germany. And like I mentioned, Hitler had ascended to power by the time the 1936 Olympic Games took place. However, the decision to host the Games in Berlin was actually made in 1931, 2 years before the rise of the Nazi Party. What's also worth knowing is that Berlin was actually the host city where it was decided where the 1936 Olympic Games would be in 1931. Today, it is outlawed for a host city of the decision to be the host city of the upcoming Olympic Games. And all that being said, most of the movie is the lead up to the 1936 Olympic Games, and therefore a majority of the film takes place in Washington State. And that leaves us with the what. The story is a deep dive into the crew race of the 1936 Olympics. And one thing you might be wondering is, how could a group of college athletes be considered the greatest crew team in the United States? That's because prior to 1990, only amateur athletes were allowed to compete in the games. That's how you get a crew team in 1936 made up of Washington University students. Rowing was a relatively new sport in the Olympic arena. In fact, it had only been added in 1896, and the race that was supposed to take place in 1896 didn't even happen due to poor weather. The 1936 race was of such great significance because the other two major powers in Olympic rowing were Germany and Italy, and those two countries were both run by fascist parties at the time, against the United States, which was still considered a burgeoning democracy. So there you have it. That's your who, what, when, and where, not exactly in that order, of The Boys in the Boat. Don't forget to comment down below on why you think that this movie is a bomb or a bust. Thanks as always for watching Watch This Then That on What They Teach You in High School. We'll see you next time, folks. Like and subscribe to the channel. Peace.